Little girl scolds the young billionaire, but when he discovers the truth, he starts to cry. Alex Hawthorne saved the last document and closed his laptop with a satisfied sigh. The morning had been productive. 3 important meetings, 2 contracts reviewed, and a merger proposal that could be worth billions to the Hawthorne Enterprises conglomerate. At 30, he had built an empire that many men of 60 still dreamed of having. He checked the watch on his wrist. 12:15. Perfect. He had a free hour before his next meeting, enough time for lunch at the Japanese restaurant 2 blocks from the building. He adjusted his Italian tie, an unconscious habit developed over the years, and slipped his reading glasses into the inner pocket of his suit jacket. The reflection in the panoramic window showed an impeccable man. Dark hair combed with precision, clean-shaven and an upright posture. Everything about him exuded control and determination. It was exactly the image he cultivated and for which he was known in the business world. His footsteps echoed down the marble hallway as he walked toward his private elevator. Work was his religion, his passion, his only true commitment. Relationships were unnecessary complications, costly distractions he had learned to masterfully avoid. The elevator descended silently down the 40 floors. Alex checked his phone. 5 unread messages, nothing urgent. He would reply after lunch when he returned to the office. Efficiency was everything. The doors opened on the ground floor, revealing the black and gold marble lobby. The security guard nodded respectfully. "Good afternoon, Mr. Hawthorne. Heading out for lunch." "That's right, Robert. I'll be back in an hour." Alex crossed the lobby with firm steps. The doorman in the navy blue uniform opened the tempered glass door, and the bright midday Manhattan sun greeted him with full force. The street was bustling. Executives walking hurriedly, street vendors offering cold water, the typical lunchtime buzz of the financial district. He descended the 3 steps at the building's entrance, taking a deep breath of the warm afternoon air. He liked walking to the restaurant. It was one of the few times he actually left the controlled environment of air-conditioned offices and cars. That's when she appeared. A little girl, no more than 5 years old, wearing a faded pink dress and rubber sandals, emerged from behind one of the building's entrance columns. Her light brown hair was in 2 imperfect pigtails, and there was a juice stain on her shirt. But what stood out the most were her eyes, green, intense, determined, and fixed on him. Alex was focused on checking his phone for any urgent messages when the small, loud yet firm Chiu voice cut through the air. "Aren't you ashamed?" He paused, looking up from his phone. The girl was planted right in front of him on the sidewalk, her little arms crossed over her chest, chin raised in a defiant pose that completely contrasted with her tiny size. Alex looked around, trying to understand the situation. Surely the child was talking to someone else. Several executives were passing by on the busy sidewalk. Any of them could be the target of that accusation. He took a step to the side, trying to go around her and head toward the restaurant. "You abandoned my mom when she was pregnant." The words came out as a shout, loud enough to make several people on the street stop and look. A group of businessmen chatting near the building entrance turned their heads, curious. Alex froze. The blood seemed to run cold in his veins as he processed what he had just heard. Slowly, he turned to face the girl. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice coming out rougher than usual. She didn't back down an inch. If anything, she seemed to grow taller before him, despite her small stature. "You know exactly who I am," she retorted, and there was a disturbing maturity in the way she spoke. "Or at least you should." Robert, the security guard, had come out of the building and was approaching, clearly concerned about the situation. "Mr. Hawthorne, is there a problem?" "Do you want me to—" "No," Alex raised his hand without taking his eyes off the child. "It's fine." But it wasn't fine. Nothing was fine. His heart was pounding out of rhythm, and for the first time in years, Alex Hawthorne felt completely out of control. The people on the street were starting to form a small circle of onlookers, whispering among themselves. The girl continued talking, as if she were reciting something rehearsed. "Her name is Emma Keller." The world stopped. The sound of traffic, the chatter of passers-by, even the noise of construction on a nearby building, Everything simply faded away when that name came out of a 5-year-old's mouth. Emma Keller. The images came like an avalanche, blonde hair falling over her shoulders, blue eyes that sparkled when she laughed, the way she bit her lower lip when she was concentrating on studying, business school, group projects, nights in the computer lab that always ended in conversations about the future. She wanted to open a school. He dreamed of his first million. And then, graduation approaching, job opportunities in different cities, the difficult conversation about how they wanted different things from life, Emma talking about commitment, about building something together, him explaining that he wasn't ready, that he had a career to build, the fight, the harsh words, the silence that followed. Emma had disappeared from his life as if she had never existed. He graduated, moved to New York, and started working at his father's company. Over time, work consumed everything. The memories were pushed further and further away until they became just a distant echo. But now, 8 years later, that name was back. Coming from the mouth of a child who was staring at him with green eyes that were... "My God," Alex murmured, and only then did he really look at the girl's face. The shape of her eyes, the line of her nose, the way she furrowed her brow when she was concentrating. It was like looking into a mirror distorted by time, a female and child-sized version of himself. "You see it, don't you?" the girl asked, and there was a dark satisfaction in her voice. "Now you remember." Alex felt his legs tremble. He leaned against one of the building's columns, trying to regain his balance. The strong sun beat down on his face, but he felt cold. I don't understand," he stammered. "There's nothing to understand," she shot back. "You abandoned my mum. She was pregnant and you disappeared." "I didn't know," Alex began, but the sentence died in his throat. Because deep down, a part of him had always wondered. Emma had disappeared so suddenly, and there was that last night, before the fight. The girl seemed to read his thoughts. "She never told you because she knew you would run away. Just like you ran away even when you didn't know. You've only ever thought about yourself." Every word was like a punch to the gut. Alex closed his eyes, trying to process the situation. A daughter. He had a daughter. A 5-year-old little girl who was right here, in front of his building, in the middle of the day, confronting him about mistakes he didn't even know he'd made. When he opened his eyes, she was closer, small, determined, unyielding. "What's your name?" Alex asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Clara," she replied, and for the first time, her expression softened slightly. Clara Keller. Clara. The name echoed in his mind. His daughter's name was Clara. He knelt on the sidewalk, ignoring the curious stares of the passers-by, getting down to her level. Up close, the resemblance was even more shocking. It was like looking at pictures of himself as a child. "Clara," he repeated, testing how the name sounded in his voice. "How did you find me? Mommy has pictures of you, and so does the internet. It wasn't hard." Alex felt a mix of admiration and terror. A 5-year-old child had managed to track him down using the internet. "And your mom, Emma, does she know you're here?" Clara shook her head. "She would be mad. She always gets mad when I ask about you." Alex's heart tightened. Emma got mad when Clara asked about him. That meant the girl had grown up wondering about her father. "I know where my mom lives," Clara said suddenly, holding her little hand out to him. "Come with me." Alex looked at the small hand extended in his direction. 5 minutes ago, his biggest worry was choosing between salmon or a tamaki roll for lunch. Now, a daughter he didn't know existed was inviting him to meet an entire life he had missed. He should go back to the office. He should call his lawyers, find out his legal rights and obligations. That's what the rational, controlled Alex would do. But when he looked at Clara again, at his daughter, he saw something in her green eyes. Hope. A cautious hope, as if she were preparing for another disappointment, but still daring to dream. Alex reached out and touched Clara's small fingers. They were warm, real, undeniably there. "Okay," he said, his own voice sounding strange. "Let's go." Robert approached again. "Mr. Hawthorne, are you sure? Do you want me to call someone or—" No need, Robert. Cancel my 2 o'clock meeting. Tell them a family emergency came up. A family emergency. The words came out naturally, but they carried a weight that Alex was still trying to comprehend. Clara pulled Alex by the hand, guiding him down the busy sidewalk. She seemed to know exactly where she was going, walking with the confidence of someone who had made this trip many times. Is it far? Alex asked. Not too far, Clara replied. We take the bus on the corner. The bus? Alex hadn't ridden a bus since college. But he followed Clara to the stop, where she stood in line like an experienced little adult. During the ride, Alex watched his daughter discreetly. She was distracted, looking out the window, occasionally pointing at a building that caught her eye. There was a naturalness to how she navigated the city. Do you always travel around the city by yourself? He asked. Clara looked at him with an expression that clearly said she thought the question was silly. Not alone, always with Ms. Marta, our neighbor. But she waited at the coffee shop. 20 minutes later, they got off in a neighborhood Alex vaguely recognized but knew he had never been to. The streets were narrower, the buildings simpler. There was nothing wrong with the place, but it was a completely different world from the universe of luxury Alex lived in. Clara led him for a few blocks until they stopped in front of a 3-story walk-up, painted light blue and with small balconies adorned with flower pots. It's here, Clara announced, pushing open the iron gate. They went up 1 flight of stairs to the 2nd floor. Clara stopped in front of a white-painted door and knocked 3 times, clearly a code between her and her mother. Mom, she yelled. I'm home. Alex heard footsteps on the other side of the door, and then a familiar voice, a voice he hadn't heard in 8 years. Clara, where were you? Miss, Marta called me saying you... The door opened, and there was Emma. 8 years had passed, but Alex would have recognized her anywhere. Her blonde hair was a bit shorter now, cut in a bob that framed her face. There were small wrinkles around her blue eyes that hadn't been there before, but it was unmistakably Emma. The smile she was giving Clara died the moment her eyes met Alex's. The color drained from her face, and she leaned against the doorframe. Hello, Emma, Alex said, his voice coming out huskier than he intended. She stared at him for a long moment, then looked at Clara, who was standing between them with an expression of cautious expectation. Clara, Emma began, and Alex could hear the effort she was making to keep her voice steady. What did you do? I brought Daddy home, Clara answered simply. Emma closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. When she opened them again, there was a mix of anger, fear, and something Alex couldn't identify. Come in, she said finally. The apartment was small but cozy. The living room had a beige sofa, a small TV, and shelves full of books and Clara's toys. There were children's drawings taped to the refrigerator, and Alex could see a hallway leading to other rooms. It was a home. Simple, modest, but definitely a home. Clara ran to the sofa and threw herself onto it, grabbing a teddy bear. Emma remained near the door, arms crossed defensively. The silence stretched for long seconds. Alex tried to find the right words, but nothing seemed appropriate. Finally, he decided to get straight to the point. Is she my daughter? Emma looked at him for a moment before answering. Yes, but I never told you. You were never one for commitment. I just wanted to protect her. The words hit Alex like a slap, because they were true. 8 years ago, he had made it clear he wasn't ready for commitment, that he had other priorities. Emma, he started, but she cut him off. No, she said, shaking her head. Not now. Not in front of her. Alex looked at Clara, who was hugging the teddy bear, watching the 2 adults with attentive eyes. She wasn't missing a single word of this conversation. The reality of the situation began to settle in completely. He had a daughter, a 5-year-old girl who had grown up without him, who probably wondered about her absent father, who had been raised by a single mother doing the best she could, and all of this because he had been young, selfish, and focused only on his own goals. The guilt he felt in that moment was unlike anything he had ever experienced. It wasn't the superficial guilt of a bad business deal. It was something deep, visceral, that seemed to eat away at his chest from the inside. Alex looked at Clara again, trying to memorize every detail of her face. His daughter. How had she grown up? What were her favorite toys? 5 years of life that he had completely missed. The tears came without warning. First just one, rolling down his cheek, then others, until he realized he was crying openly right there, in Emma's living room. He hadn't cried since when? Crying was a sign of weakness, of a lack of control. But right then, in that moment, Alex felt completely defenseless. Emma took a step forward, her expression softening. "Alex." "I'm sorry," he managed to say between tears. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." "I know," Emma murmured, and for the first time since she opened the door, her voice held no anger. "I know you didn't know." Clara got off the sofa and walked over to Alex. Without a word, she took his hand the same way she had on the sidewalk and held it tight. "Don't cry, Daddy," she said, and the way she pronounced the word Daddy made Alex's heart break and mend itself all at the same time. He knelt again, getting down to her level, and for the first time since this all began, Alex Hawthorne didn't try to control anything. He didn't try to rationalize, plan, or find an efficient solution. He just felt the weight of the truth, the guilt for the lost time, the instant and overwhelming love for this small child who carried his eyes and his blood. And there, in the small apartment in a modest Brooklyn neighborhood, the man who had built a billion-dollar empire discovered that the most important thing in his life was holding his hand and calling him Daddy. The private elevator to the penthouse chimed softly. The doors opened, revealing the entryway with its Carrara marble floor and a single piece of art on the wall. Everything was exactly as Alex had left it that morning, impeccable, silent, perfectly organized. Alex crossed the hall and entered the main room. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Central Park, with the city stretching to the horizon. It was the kind of view that used to give him a sense of accomplishment. Today, however, it just seemed empty. He dropped his keys on the glass table and loosened his tie. He took off his jacket and tossed it onto the Italian leather sofa, something he never did. He always hung everything in its proper place, kept everything in its order. But today, nothing was in its right place. He walked to the gourmet kitchen, opened the refrigerator, and stood there for long seconds, not really seeing what was inside. He grabbed a bottle of water, took a sip. The cold liquid went down his throat, but didn't ease the tightness in his chest. Alex tried to focus on his routine. That's what always worked. He picked up his laptop from the dining table and opened it, determined to review the pending reports. The screen lit up, showing spreadsheets full of numbers, growth charts, profit projections. But the words blurred before his eyes. Instead of numbers, he saw a pair of green eyes. Small, determined, accusing Clara. The name echoed in his mind like a mantra he couldn't stop repeating. Clara, his daughter. Alex shut the laptop forcefully and pushed his chair back. He walked to the window, placing his hands on the cold glass. Down below, life went on as usual. People walked along the park paths. Children played on the lawns. An ordinary, simple, real life. A life he had never lived. Clara's face appeared in his mind again, as clear as if she were standing right in front of him. The way she had planted herself on the sidewalk, tiny but unshakable. The accusation that cut so deep. "You've only ever thought about yourself." It was true. Alex knew it was true, and that realization hurt more than any criticism he had ever received. It was the raw, unvarnished truth coming from the mouth of a 5-year-old child, his child. He stepped away from the window and poured a glass of whiskey. The alcohol burned as it went down, but it couldn't burn away the images that kept returning. Emma. For the first time in years, Alex allowed the memories to come without resistance. Emma in college, always surrounded by books, always talking about her dreams of teaching. How she lit up when she spoke about the future she wanted to build. How her eyes sparkled when she looked at him, and how that sparkle had faded in the last few months they were together. Alex remembered now with painful clarity. Emma trying to talk about their relationship, about the future, about commitment. Him always changing the subject, always having an excuse, always running away. "Alex, we need to talk about us," she would say, and he would reply, "After the finance exam." "Alex, I need to know where we're headed," she insisted, and he'd say, "Let's just focus on graduation first." "Alex, I love you, but I need to know if you feel the same." She had said that last night, her eyes full of restrained tears. And him. He had looked at her as if she were being irrational. "Emma, you know I have a lot on my plate right now. My father's company, the opportunities. It's not the time for that kind of commitment." The silence that followed still echoed in his ears. Emma had nodded slowly, as if she had finally understood something she had been trying to deny for months. "Okay, Alex. I understand." And that was the last thing she ever said to him. The following week she was gone. She didn't answer calls, didn't reply to messages. Alex had been confused at first, then annoyed, but soon after came graduation, the move to New York, the job. Life swallowed everything up, and Alex convinced himself it was for the best. Now standing in the middle of his luxurious penthouse, surrounded by everything he had achieved, Alex finally understood what he had lost. It wasn't just Emma. It was the chance to be a different person, the chance to choose love over success, family over fortune, the chance to know his daughter from day one, 5 years. 5 entire years of Clara's life he had missed, because he didn't even know she existed. And she existed because one night, 8 years ago, he and Emma had given in to what they felt for each other. A night Alex had buried, along with all the other memories of Emma. But Emma had carried the consequences alone. She had found out she was pregnant, and instead of chasing him down, had chosen to protect her daughter from the rejection she knew would come, because she knew him. She knew the selfish, ambitious Alex, who saw relationships as obstacles. The guilt Alex felt in that moment was different from anything he had ever experienced. It wasn't the frustration of a lost deal. It was something much deeper, more corrosive. It was the awareness that his choices had hurt people he should have protected. For the first time in his adult life, Alex Hawthorne felt truly guilty. He finished the whiskey and walked to his home office. On the walls, diplomas and certificates attested to his professional successes. On the shelf, trophies documented business achievements. Everything in there spoke of a man who had reached the top. But looking at it all now, Alex wondered, one what? What kind of life? A life where a 5-year-old child had to go to her father's office to confront him about his abandonment. A life where the woman he had loved had to raise a child alone, because she knew he wouldn't take responsibility. For the first time in years, Alex questioned whether he had made the right choices. If all this success was worth it, if it meant living isolated from everything that truly mattered. He thought of Clara again. How she had approached him at the end, holding his hand while he cried. How she had said, "Don't cry, Daddy," with a kindness he didn't deserve. Was it still possible? Could a 5-year-old forgive 8 years of absence? Could Emma ever trust him enough to let him be part of Clara's life? "Can I still do something for her?" Alex murmured to the empty office. The question hung in the air, unanswered. But for the first time since he had left Emma's apartment, Alex felt something besides guilt and remorse. He felt a determination growing inside him, a will to try, to fight for a chance to know his daughter, to be the father she deserved. Even if it was too late, even if he had to learn from scratch how to be a father, he had to try. Clara deserved at least that. Alex parked the Mercedes in front of the blue building where he had been 2 days earlier. This time, however, he didn't arrive empty-handed. On the passenger seat rested an elegant box from FAO Schwarz, one of the most expensive toy stores in New York. Inside it, an imported doll that had cost more than many people's monthly paycheck. He had spent the entire morning researching the most desired toys for 5-year-old girls. He read articles, consulted rankings, and even called the store to ask about the latest trends. The saleswoman had been firm. That doll was the most modern and sophisticated item on the children's market. It was perfect. It had blonde hair that could be styled, miniature designer clothes that could be changed, and even a small tablet with educational games. If there was one thing Alex understood, it was investing in the best, and his daughter deserved the best. He grabbed the box and climbed the stairs, his heart beating faster with every step. He hadn't called ahead. Part of him feared Emma wouldn't let him in, but another part hoped the surprise would make a good impression. He knocked on the door 3 times, imitating the code Clara had used. "Mom, that's not me," the girl's voice shouted from the other side. "Someone knocked just like me." Alex smiled involuntarily. Even in the small details, Clara was sharp. The door opened and Emma appeared, wearing a simple t-shirt and jeans. When she saw Alex, her expression hardened slightly. "What are you doing here?" "I brought something for Clara. Can I come in?" Emma hesitated for a moment, then stepped back. "Clara, you have a visitor." The girl came running from the living room, stopped when she saw Alex, and smiled shyly. "Hi, Daddy." Hearing that word still made Alex's chest tighten in a way he didn't know how to process. "Hi, Clara. I brought something for you." He held up the elegant box, and the girl's eyes widened slightly. It was an impressive box, all adorned with gold ribbons and shiny wrapping paper. "What is it? Open it and see." Clara took the box carefully, as if it were too fragile for her small hands. Alex watched anxiously as she untied the ribbon and slowly tore the paper. When the doll finally appeared, Clara let out a soft, "Oh, she's pretty," she said, taking the doll out of the box and examining the details. "She has real hair. It's a special fiber that looks like real hair. And look, she comes with different outfits, and there's even a little computer here." He began to explain all the doll's features, talking about the educational games, the interchangeable clothes, the imported accessories. Clara listened to him attentively, nodding politely. "Thank you very much, Daddy," she said when Alex finished his explanation. "She's very pretty." There was something in the way she said, "Thank you very much," that sounded strangely formal for a 5-year-old, as if she were thanking a distant aunt for a gift, not her father. "Do you really like it?" Alex asked, feeling a pang of uncertainty. "Yes, I do." "Very pretty," Clara repeated, but she was holding the doll somewhat awkwardly, as if she didn't quite know what to do with it. Emma, who had watched the whole scene in silence, stepped closer. "Clara, how about you take your new doll to your room, and then come back?" "Okay, Mum." Clara ran off with the doll, and Alex felt satisfied. It had worked. "Sit," Emma said, pointing to the sofa. Alex sat, still smiling. "I think she liked it. It's a very expensive doll, imported. It has top-of-the-line technology." "Alex," Emma interrupted him, her voice tired, "she doesn't need this." "What do you mean she doesn't need it? It's a doll. Girls like dolls." "She doesn't need this. She needs someone to sit with her and ask how her day was." Emma's words landed like a bucket of cold water. Alex opened his mouth to respond, but he didn't know what to say. I wanted to give her a nice present." "I know, but that's not what she needs, Alex. What she doesn't have is a father who actually knows her." Alex felt his face flush. Emma wasn't being cruel, but her words hurt. "Then let me get to know her." "You don't know her, and you show up here with a $500 doll for a girl when you don't even know her favorite color." "What is it?" "Green, like her eyes, and she doesn't really like dolls that much. She's more into drawing books, time, and making up stories." Alex felt himself shrink into the armchair. Every piece of information Emma shared was like a reminder of how little he knew about his own daughter. Clara returned at that moment without the doll. "I put her in my room," she said, sitting on the floor near the coffee table. "She's really pretty." Alex tried to smile. "And how was your day today, Clara?" The question came out awkwardly, as if he were reading from a script. "It was good," Clara replied, picking up a colored pencil that was on the table. "What did you do?" "I went to school." "Oh, and did you like it?" "I liked it." "What did you like best?" Clara stopped fiddling with the pencil and looked at him. Miss Maria told a story about a bird that didn't know how to fly. That's cool, and did the bird learn to fly? It did, but first it had to learn that it didn't have to fly like the other birds. It could fly its own way. Alex nodded, trying to think of something else to ask. The silence stretched for a few uncomfortable seconds. And, do you have friends at school? I do. Julia is my best friend. That's great. And what do you play? We make up stories. Alex tried to continue the conversation, but he felt like he was walking on eggshells. Every question seemed forced, every answer from Clara too polite or too distant. After a few more minutes of failed attempts, Alex stood up. I have to go. Okay, said Clara, still fiddling with the colored pencil. Thank you for the doll, she added, remembering her manners. You're welcome, daughter. The word daughter came out naturally, but it sounded strange in the air, as if he were trying out a new word. Emma walked him to the door. Alex. I know, he said before she could finish. I don't know how to do this. Nobody is born knowing how to be a father. But everyone else gets 5 years to learn. I have 5 minutes. Emma looked at him with something that might have been compassion. It's not about the time. It's about being present in the time you have. Alex nodded, but he wasn't sure he completely understood. He went down the stairs feeling smaller than when he had arrived, despite the expensive box he had brought. In the car, he sat for a few minutes, staring at the building. Through the second-floor window, he could see Clara's silhouette moving around the living room. His daughter, who liked the color green, drawing and making up stories, who had received a $500 doll with the same polite courtesy one uses with strangers, because that's what he was to her, a stranger. Alex started the car and drove away, but he took with him the image of Clara politely thanking him for a gift she hadn't asked for. And for the first time, he began to understand that being a father was about much more than giving expensive gifts. He had failed today, but something inside him said he needed to try again. A different way. 3 days had passed since the imported doll. 3 days that Alex spent mulling over Emma's words, trying to understand what being present in the time you have meant. 3 days staring at his phone, wanting to call but not knowing what to say. This time, when he parked in front of the blue building, his hands were empty. No elegant boxes, no expensive gifts, just him, trying to figure out how to be a father without an instruction manual. The afternoon was warm, and a few children were playing in the building's small courtyard. Alex watched them for a moment, trying to imagine Clara there, running, laughing, being a kid. Once again, he realized how little he knew about his own daughter's daily life. He climbed the stairs more slowly than the last time. With each step, he felt the weight of uncertainty. What was he going to say? How would he start? The last conversation had been so forced, so artificial. He knocked on the door 3 times. "Mum, someone's knocking just like me," came the familiar shout from the other side. An involuntary smile appeared on Alex's face. He was already starting to learn Clara's little rituals. Emma opened the door, and this time her expression wasn't one of surprise or irritation. It was more cautious curiosity. "Again?" "Again," Alex confirmed. "No gifts this time." Emma studied him for a moment, then stepped back. "Come in." Clara came running from the living room, wearing a yellow dress with poster paint stains on the sleeves. When she saw Alex, her face lit up in a way he hadn't seen before. "Daddy!" she exclaimed, and ran to him. The spontaneity of the reaction caught Alex by surprise. She seemed genuinely happy to see him, without the polite formality of the last visit. "Hi, Clara," he said, kneeling to get to her level. "How are you?" "Good. Want to see something I made?" Before Alex could answer, Clara had already run back into the living room. He stood up and looked at Emma, who was watching the interaction with a slightly more relaxed expression. "She was asking when you were coming back," Emma said quietly. "She was. Yesterday she asked if you liked the doll. I told her I was sure you did." Alex felt a pang in his chest. Clara had thought of him. She had worried if he liked the gift she hadn't even asked for. "Daddy, look!" Clara came running back, holding a piece of paper. Alex took the drawing she held out to him. It was done with crayons, with the shaky but determined lines of a 5-year-old. In the center of the page was a house with a red triangle roof and a blue rectangle door. There were a few flowers around it, a yellow sun in the top right corner with rays that looked more like spikes, and 3 stick figures holding hands in front of the house. One was smaller, with brown hair in 2 pigtails. Another was a bit taller, with long yellow hair. The third was tall, with dark hair. And above it all, written in crooked, uneven letters, was, "My family." Alex stood there, holding the paper as if it were made of glass. The letters danced before his eyes, and he blinked several times, trying to process what he was seeing. My family. She had drawn him. He was there, on the paper, holding hands with Clara and Emma, part of the family. Not as a visitor, not as a stranger who showed up with expensive gifts, as family. "Do you like it?" Clara asked, and there was genuine anxiety in her voice. Alex tried to speak, but his voice failed. He cleared his throat and tried again. "It's the most beautiful drawing I've ever seen in my life," and it wasn't a lie. At that moment, that crayon drawing was worth more than all the expensive art decorating his penthouse. "It's our family," Clara explained, pointing to each figure. "This is me, this is Mommy, and this is you." "Why did you draw me here?" Alex asked, his voice coming out huskier than he intended. Clara looked at him as if the question were too obvious. "Because you're my daddy." Simple as that. For her, there were no complications, no lost years, no past mistakes. He was her daddy, and daddies were part of the family. Period. Alex knelt again and pulled Clara into a hug. She came without hesitation, and for the first time since they met, Alex felt like he was doing something right. "Thank you," he murmured into her ear. "Thank you for the most beautiful drawing in the world." Clara pulled back a little to look at him. "Do you want to stay for a bit? I was playing with my toys." Alex glanced at Emma, who nodded almost imperceptibly. "Of course. I'd love to stay." Clara took his hand and pulled him into the living room. On the floor, a collection of toys was scattered about. A few cars, building blocks, crayons, children's books, and yes, the expensive doll he had given her, but it was clearly just propped up in a corner. "Sit here," Clara said, pointing to the floor next to her. Alex hesitated for a second. His pants were Italian, expensive, and the floor... Well, the floor was where kids played. But then he looked at Clara, who was watching him expectantly, and he sat down. The floor was more comfortable than he expected. "What were you doing?" he asked. "I was building a city with the blocks. Want to help me?" "I don't know how to build cities," Alex admitted. "That's okay, I'll teach you." And she did. With the infinite patience that only children seem to have, Clara showed Alex how to stack the blocks to make buildings, how to make streets between them, where to put the cars. He followed her instructions, trying not to knock everything over, concentrating as if he were closing a multi-million-dollar deal. "You're good at this," Clara said after they finished an entire city block. "You think so?" "I do. You make the buildings really straight," Alex smiled. It was probably the first fatherhood-related compliment he had ever received. They played in silence for a few minutes, building the block city. Alex discovered there was something almost meditative about the process. There was no pressure, no deadlines, no emails to answer. Just him and Clara, sitting on the floor, stacking colorful blocks. "Daddy," Clara said suddenly. "Yeah? Can you help me with my homework?" Alex blinked, surprised. "Your homework?" "Miss Maria gave us homework. I already did it by myself, but Mummy says it's always good to have someone check it." Of course I can help." Clara got up and grabbed a small backpack that was leaning against the sofa. From inside, she pulled out a notebook and opened it to a specific page. "We have to write our name and draw our family," she explained. Alex looked at the page. At the top, Clara had written Clara in large, neat letters. Below, she had started the drawing but had apparently stopped halfway. "You can write your name really well," Alex said, genuinely impressed. "Miss Maria taught me. Want to see how I write?" Clara picked up a pencil and, with her tongue sticking out in concentration, began to slowly write each letter. Alex watched, fascinated. There was something hypnotic in the way she formed each curve, each straight line. "Perfect," he said when she finished. "Now for the family part. I already started drawing, but I don't know if it's right." Alex looked at the drawing in the notebook. It was similar to the one she had given him, but more detailed. The house had windows, the flowers had stems, and the three figures had more details. "It looks great. What do you think is missing?" Clara studied the drawing seriously. "I think the house could have a better door, and maybe more flowers." "Let's do that then." They worked on the drawing together, Clara making the additions and Alex suggesting small details. It wasn't a complex task. It didn't require advanced skills. It was simple, basics. But Alex found that being there, helping his daughter with something that was important to her, made more sense than any business meeting he had ever attended. "Done!" Clara declared, admiring the final result. "It looks perfect," Alex agreed. Clara looked at him with a smile that lit up her whole face. "You're good at this, Daddy." "Daddy." The word fell naturally from her lips, without hesitation, without formality, as if he had always been her daddy, as if there weren't 5 years of absence between them. Alex felt his eyes well up. "You really think so?" "I do. You help well, and you don't keep telling me to do it differently. You just stay with me. Just stay with me." In that moment, Alex finally understood what Emma had been trying to tell him. It wasn't about knowing all the answers. It wasn't about giving expensive gifts or having solutions to every problem. It was about being there. Simply being there, present, available, interested. Being a father wasn't knowing everything. It was being there. "Clara," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Yeah? Thank you for letting me help with your homework." "Thank you for helping me," she replied, and then added naturally, "You can help always, if you want." Alex smiled, and this time the smile came easily, naturally. "I want to, very much." Clara nodded as if this were obvious and went back to organizing her toys. Alex remained sitting on the floor, watching her, still holding the drawing she had given him. My family. For the first time since he found out he was a father, Alex felt exactly where he was supposed to be, not standing tall, looking down, not trying to impress or control. Just there on the floor on her level, being a part of it. Emma appeared at the living room doorway, watching the scene in silence. When Alex looked up at her, he saw something in her face he hadn't seen before. Approval, perhaps, or hope. "Daddy," Clara said again, testing the word. "Yes, daughter," Alex replied. And this time the word came out naturally, right. And there, sitting on the floor surrounded by toys and colorful blocks, with a crayon drawing of a family in his hands, Alex discovered that being a father was much simpler and much more complicated than he had ever imagined. It was about being present. It was about sitting on the floor. It was about helping with homework. It was about love. The purest, simplest, truest kind there is. The kind of love a 5-year-old child could teach to a 30-year-old man who thought he knew everything about life. "Daddy, can you take me to the park on Sunday?" Clara asked on Friday afternoon, as she organized her crayons after another drawing session with Alex. They were sitting on the living room floor, surrounded by pages full of houses, trees, and stick-figure families. Alex had started visiting Clara regularly, and each visit felt more natural than the last. "Of course, sweetheart. What time do you want to go?" "Early in the morning. There's new playground equipment there I want to show you." The enthusiasm in her voice made Alex's heart warm. Clara was genuinely excited to spend time with him, to show him things she found important. "Then it's a date. Sunday morning, early, we'll go to the park. Promise." The question came with a seriousness that surprised Alex. Clara was looking him directly in the eye, as if the answer were crucial. "I promise," he said without hesitation. The smile that spread across Clara's face was radiant. "I'm going to wake up early and get dressed up really nice. You'll see how high the swings are." Sunday morning, Clara woke up before the sun. She had slept poorly, too excited for the outing with her dad. She took a bath by herself, brushed her teeth and picked out her favorite outfit, a blue dress with a butterfly print that her grandmother had given her for her birthday. "Mom, what time is Daddy coming?" she asked for the 5th time, as Emma prepared breakfast. "You didn't set a specific time, honey." But he said it would be early morning. Clara ran to the living room window and watched the street. Every car that passed made her heart leap, thinking it might be her father's black Mercedes. "Mom, is it late yet?" Emma looked at the clock. It was 9 in the morning. "It's still early, Clara. Daddy should be here soon." But 10 o'clock came, and Alex didn't appear. Then 11. Then noon. Clara remained at the window, now sitting in a chair she had dragged over. The blue dress was wrinkled from so much fidgeting, and she clutched a small drawing in her hand that she had made to show her father. "Mommy," she said at 2 in the afternoon, her voice small, "I think Daddy forgot." Emma felt her heart break. She walked over to her daughter and pulled her into a hug. "Maybe he had a problem, honey. Let's have some lunch." Clara shook her head, still looking out the window. "I want to wait a little longer." What Clara didn't know was that, at that exact moment, Alex had been locked in his office for over 15 hours. A crisis had exploded at the company. The merger with the German firm was threatened, millions in contracts were at risk, and an emergency meeting had stretched through the entire night. Alex was so immersed in spreadsheets, phone calls, and negotiations that he didn't even remember what day it was. Sunday had become just another extension of the work week, like so many other times in his life. It was only on Monday morning, when he finally managed to resolve the crisis, that Alex looked at his calendar and realized what he had done. Sunday. Park. Clara. His stomach dropped. He grabbed his phone with trembling hands and saw 3 missed calls from Emma, all from Sunday afternoon. "Damn it," he muttered, running his hands through his hair. How had he forgotten? How had he left Clara waiting? Alex ran out of the office, cancelled all his meetings for the day, and drove to Emma's apartment as if his life depended on it. It was almost 3 in the afternoon on Monday when he knocked on the door. 3 times, Clara's code, but this time with hesitation. Emma opened the door, and Alex had never seen such a hard expression on her face. "What do you want?" "Emma, 2 days. Alex, for 2 days she's been asking if you forgot about her." The words were like punches to the gut. Alex tried to explain. "There was a crisis at the company, I don't want to hear about your company," Emma interrupted, her voice low but firm. She woke up at 6 in the morning on Sunday, got dressed, and stood at the window waiting until 5 in the afternoon. Alex closed his eyes, trying to fight back the guilt that was swallowing him. "Where is she?" "In her room. She didn't want to go to school today." "Can I talk to her?" Emma hesitated for a long moment. "She's learning to trust, Alex. Don't destroy that." Emma's words echoed in Alex's mind like an alarm. She's learning to trust. He had broken the first promise he'd made to his daughter. "Let me try to fix this." "Please." Emma stepped back, allowing him to enter. Alex walked to Clara's room. The door was ajar, and he could see her lying on the bed, still wearing the same wrinkled blue dress, hugging her teddy bear. "Clara?" She turned her head and saw him, but she didn't get up. She didn't smile. She just looked at him with an expression that broke Alex's heart. "Hi," she said, her voice lifeless. Alex entered the room and knelt beside the bed, getting down to her eye level. "Clara, I need to apologize to you." She didn't answer, just kept looking at him. "I promised to take you to the park on Sunday, and I didn't keep my promise, and that was very wrong of me." "You forgot me," Clara said, and it wasn't a question. It was a statement. The words were like a blade twisting in Alex's chest. "No, sweetheart, I never forgot you. I was working and I lost track of the day. But that's not an excuse." Clara sat up in bed, still hugging the bear. "I waited all day. Mommy said you must have had a problem." "I did have a problem at work, yes, but it wasn't more important than you." "Nothing is more important than you. Then why didn't you come?" Clara's simple question was devastating in its honesty. Alex struggled to find an answer a 5-year-old could understand. "Because I'm still learning how to be a dad, and I made a very big mistake, but I want to learn to do better." Clara watched him for a moment. "Are you going to forget me again?" Alex took her little hands in his. "Will you forgive me, Clara? I will never leave you waiting again. Never again." Promise for real this time. I promise for real. And you know how I'm going to make sure I never forget again. Clara shook her head. I'm going to write down all our plans in a special calendar. A calendar just for us. And I'll set alarms on my phone, sir. And I'll ask my assistant to remind me. Because you are the most important thing in my life. Clara tilted her head, considering, what if there's another problem at work? Then I'll solve it later. You come first, always. For the first time since Alex had arrived, Clara managed a small smile. Okay. But now you have to take me to the park 2 times. One for the Sunday you missed, and one new one. Alex laughed, feeling immense relief. Deal. 2 trips to the park, whenever you want. Now. Alex looked at his watch. It was 3:30 on a Monday afternoon. He had cancelled important meetings. He had a pile of emails to answer. Now, he said without hesitation. Let's go right now. Clara jumped off the bed with renewed energy. I'm going to change my clothes. As Clara changed, Alex stood up and met Emma at the bedroom door. Thank you, he said. For what? For giving me a second chance. For letting her give me a second chance. Emma studied him for a moment. Don't do this again, Alex. She's a child. She doesn't understand business crises. She only understands that her dad made a promise and didn't come. I know, and you're right. Never again. I hope that's true. It is true, Alex said, looking at Emma with all the sincerity he could muster. She is my priority now, I promise, and this time he was determined to keep his promise. Alex was in his office on Thursday morning when he made the decision. He had spent the whole week thinking about the park incident, about the way Clara had waited for him, about the trust that was broken and then rebuilt. But more than that, he had thought about the drawing she gave him. My family. It was time to make it official. He picked up the phone and called his lawyer. Robert East, I need you to prepare the documents for a declaration of paternity. A declaration of paternity? The lawyer's voice was surprised. Sir, you have a child. A daughter, Clara, 5 years old. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I understand I'll need some documents from the mother and the child. And sir, this will have significant legal implications. Child support, inheritance, responsibilities, public exposure. I know. That's exactly what I want. Very well, I'll prepare everything. Can we meet tomorrow to review the documents? Perfect. Alex hung up the phone and stared out the panoramic window. Down below, the city buzzed with its usual routine. Executives rushed to meetings. People hurried along the sidewalks. Life went on. But for him, nothing would be routine anymore. He was about to officially claim paternity of Clara, and that would change everything. The intercom buzzed, interrupting his thoughts. Mr. Hawthorne, your father is here. He says he needs to speak with you urgently. Alex frowned. Walter Hawthorne rarely showed up unannounced. In fact, they barely spoke outside of company board meetings. Send him in. The door opened, and Walter entered with his usual imposing presence. At 65, he was still an intimidating man. Tall, grey hair perfectly combed, impeccable suit, and an expression Alex knew very well, the expression of someone about to deliver a lecture. Dad, what a surprise. Have a seat. Walter did not sit. He stood in front of Alex's desk, hands clasped behind his back in a military posture Alex remembered from childhood. Alex, I need to talk to you about a very serious matter. I'm listening. I heard you've been in touch with Robert regarding paternity issues. Alex leaned back in his chair. He should have known the news would reach his father's ears quickly. The world of the business elite was small, and Robert had been the family's lawyer for decades. No secrets lasted long in that circle. It's true. Have you lost your mind? On the contrary, I think I've found it. Walter took a step forward, placing his hands on the mahogany desk. Alex could see the veins bulging in his father's hands, a sign he was angrier than he was letting on. Alex, you've built an empire. Your name is worth billions. Your reputation is flawless. Hawthorne Enterprises is one of the most respected companies in the country. And now you want to throw all that away because of A youthful mistake. The word mistake hit Alex like a slap. He stood up slowly, feeling the familiar tension that always arose when he had to confront his father. She's not a mistake. Alex, be realistic. A child who appears out of nowhere after 5 years, a mother who never contacted you for anything, who never asked for child support or recognition, and now you want to take on responsibilities that aren't even yours. They are mine. She is my daughter. Walter sighed deeply, as if he were dealing with a stubborn child. It was an expression Alex knew well from his childhood, the same one Walter made when Alex asked to play instead of study. Listen, son, I understand you might feel obligated, guilty perhaps, but there are discreet ways to handle this. A generous support payment, an education fund, maybe even a better apartment for the mother. You can take care of them without exposing yourself, without harming the family. I don't care about exposure. You should care. Walter raised his voice for the first time, losing his calculated composure. You have responsibilities, Alex. To the company, to the employees, to the shareholders, to the investors. There are thousands of people who depend on the reputation of Hawthorne Enterprises. You can't just... Can't what? Alex interrupted, feeling anger rising inside him like a wave. Can't be a father to my own daughter? You can be whatever you want, but intelligently, strategically. You don't need to drag the family name into this. Think of the press. Think of the competitors who will use this against you. Alex walked to the window, trying to control the irritation that threatened to overflow. Down below, he saw a family crossing the street, a father, a mother, and a little girl between them, all holding hands. A simple scene that, until a few weeks ago, would have meant nothing to him. When he turned back to his father, his voice was calm, but there was a firmness that Walter had rarely heard from his son. Do you know what the difference is between us, Dad? Walter crossed his arms, preparing for another lecture on business. You've always seen everything as a business transaction, even family. You raised me as if I were a corporate project and not a son. I gave you everything, Walter exploded. The best education in the country, the best schools, the best opportunities, Harvard, an MBA, connections other men would kill for. You gave me everything except what I needed most, which was attention, listening, presence. Walter rolled his eyes, an expression of impatience Alex had known since childhood. Alex, you're being dramatic. I was always present. I was at every graduation, every important presentation. You were physically present, Dad, but never really present. You never sat on the floor with me to play. You never helped me with homework because you were busy with important things. You never asked how my day was and actually listened to the answer, instead of already thinking about the next meeting. I was building an empire for you. So I worked 16 hours a day to secure your future. And I'm going to be a better father than you were to me, Alex said, the words coming out with a determination that surprised even him. The silence that followed was deafening. Walter stood still, clearly offended, his face red with contained anger. A better father, Alex, I gave you absolutely everything. You never wanted for anything, never had to worry about money, never... You gave me money, Dad. Possessions, status, a bank account most people only dream of, but you never gave me unconditional love. You never made me feel like I was more important than any deal, any merger, any meeting. And you think you're going to manage that? You think you're going to be this perfect father you're criticizing so much? Alex looked directly into his father's eyes. I'm going to try, and if I fail, I'll try again, and she will have what I never had. Attention, listening, presence. She will know she is the priority in my life, not an obligation I fit in between meetings. Walter shook his head, frustrated. You're going to regret this, Alex. When the tabloids find out, when this affects the stock price, when this situation complicates your personal and professional life. My life is already complicated, Dad. The difference is that now it's complicated for the right reasons. Walter stared at his son for a long moment, as if seeing a stranger, and maybe he was. The Alex he had molded, trained and prepared to be a money-making machine, was giving way to someone he didn't recognize. You were so promising, Walter murmured, more to himself than to Alex. I'm still promising, Dad. I just promise different things now. Walter headed for the door, defeated. And what if this goes wrong? What if this girl isn't really your daughter? What if the mother is just trying to take advantage of you financially? Alex looked at his father with an expression mixing pity and determination. Dad, I look at Clara and I see my own eyes. I see my nose, my way of frowning when I'm concentrating, even the way she tilts her head when she's thinking. But even if that weren't true, even if she wasn't biologically my daughter, I would still do this. Why? Because she chose me. A 5-year-old girl appeared in my life, called me Daddy, and gave me a chance to be better than I am. And I am going to live up to that title. Walter left without another word, leaving Alex alone in the office. The silence that followed wasn't oppressive, as it used to be after arguments with his father. It was liberating. For the first time in many years, Alex didn't feel obligated to justify his choices based on profit or business strategy. The next day, Alex, Emma, and Clara met at the city clerk's office. Clara was wearing her favorite blue dress, the same one she had worn to wait for her father on the Sunday of the park. This time, however, there was no waiting or anxiety. Alex had arrived 15 minutes early, as nervous as if it were a meeting with international investors. Daddy, what are we going to do here? Clara asked as they walked through the hallways of the public building. We're going to make it so you have the same last name as me, Alex explained, trying to use words a 5-year-old could understand. What do you mean? You're going to stop being just Clara Keller and you're going to be Clara Keller Hawthorne. Clara's eyes widened, as if Alex had just told her she'd won a unicorn. For real? For real? And does that mean we're a real family? Alex stopped walking and knelt in the hallway, getting down to her level. Clara, we already are a real family. This is just so everyone else knows it. Emma watched the interaction in silence, holding a folder with all the necessary documents. In recent weeks, she had seen a transformation in Alex she never thought possible. The cold and calculating man she had known in college, who saw relationships as contracts with performance clauses, was giving way to someone who genuinely cared, who was trying to learn to be a father even without an instruction manual. At the office, they were helped by a friendly, middle-aged clerk who explained the whole process with the patience of someone who dealt with families every day. Mr. Hawthorne, are you aware that this declaration of paternity will have permanent legal implications? I am completely aware. Alex signed document after document, each signature a promise, a commitment made official before the law. Clara watched everything with fascination, as if she were witnessing a magic ritual. Now you need to sign too, Clara, the clerk said, offering the girl a pencil. Clara looked at Alex, uncertain. I know how to sign my name. Miss Maria taught me at school. Then sign it, sweetheart. Very neatly. Clara took the pencil with both hands, as if it were very important, and with her tongue sticking out in maximum concentration, she wrote Clara in large, slightly crooked, but perfectly legible letters. Perfect, said the clerk, stamping the document. You are now officially named Clara Keller Hawthorne. Clara looked at Alex, then at Emma, then back at Alex. Now we have the same name. Alex knelt beside her once more, taking her small hand in his. We sure do, my daughter. And what does that mean exactly? Alex smiled, trying to find the right words. It means that now it's on paper, official, that you are my daughter and I am your father. Forever. No one can ever change that. Ever again. Clara beamed the biggest smile Alex had ever seen and threw herself into his arms. I really like my new name. Clara Keller Hawthorne, Alex said, testing how it sounded. It's perfect. You're perfect. When they left the clerk's office, Clara ran ahead, playing a game of hopping on the sidewalk tiles and repeating her new name aloud. Clara Keller Hawthorne, Clara Keller Hawthorne, as if it were a song. Alex and Emma walked side by side in silence for a few moments, each lost in their own thoughts. Thank you, Emma said finally, her voice low. For what? For making this official, for taking responsibility, for not running away when it got hard. Alex stopped walking and looked at Emma. The afternoon sun lit up her face, and for a moment he saw the 22-year-old girl he had known in college, full of dreams and hopes. "Emma, I need you to know something very important." She stopped too and faced him, bracing for whatever was coming. "I can't change the past. I can't go back in time and be there when you found out you were pregnant, when you had to make all those decisions alone. I can't be there for her first steps, her first words, the night she had a fever and you stayed up taking care of her alone, scared and with no one to help you." Emma nodded, her eyes watering at the memories. "But I can guarantee her future. With everything I have, with everything I am, with every cent I earn for the rest of my life, she will never need anything again, never feel abandoned again, never again doubt that she is unconditionally loved." "Alex, and neither will you, Emma? I know we still have a lot to talk about, a lot to resolve between us. I'm not asking to go back to what we were, but I want you to know that you two are my family now. And I will protect my family with everything I have." Emma wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, trying not to cry in front of Clara. "I really want to believe that." "Then believe it. Give me that chance. Let me prove that I can be the man you two deserve." "Daddy, Mom!" Clara shouted from a distance, interrupting the moment. "Come see. There's a dog here." Alex and Emma looked at Clara, who was kneeling beside a scruffy, caramel-colored mutt that had appeared on the sidewalk, and was now looking up at her with the universal hope of a stray dog. "Come on," Alex said, holding his hand out to Emma. She hesitated for a moment, looking at his outstretched hand as if it were a bridge to an uncertain future. Then, slowly, she took it, and together they walked toward their daughter, toward their family. Clara Keller Hawthorne waited for them, smiling, with a dog in her lap and the entire future ahead of her. 3 weeks had passed since the registration at the clerk's office, and Alex was discovering that being an official father was very different from just being a father in his heart. There was a constant responsibility now, a presence that had to be maintained every day, not just in special moments. His routine had completely changed. Before due east, Alex left the office when the work was done, with no set time, sometimes getting home after midnight. Now, at 5:30 in the afternoon, regardless of what was happening, he packed up and left. His assistants had learned not to schedule anything after that time, and his partners knew that Alex Hawthorne, the legendary workaholic, had become unavailable in the late afternoons. It was Tuesday when Alex knocked on the door of Emma's apartment, as he had every day for 3 weeks. Clara opened the door with a smile that still made his heart race. "Daddy, you're right on time. I'm doing my math homework." "Math?" Alex pretended to be impressed. "My lucky day. Math is my specialty." Clara pulled him by the hand to the living room table, where an open notebook and pencils were scattered. Emma was in the kitchen preparing dinner, but Alex could sense her watching their interaction. "Look, I have to add these numbers here," Clara explained, pointing to a page full of simple equations. Alex sat next to her and looked at the exercises. They were basic sums, nothing a 5-year-old couldn't handle. But when Clara picked up the pencil and started the first problem, Alex noticed she was counting on her fingers, moving her lips silently as she counted. 2 plus 3, Clara murmured, holding up 2 fingers on one hand and 3 on the other. 5. She wrote 5s in the notebook and looked to Alex for approval. "Exactly right," Alex said, and Clara beamed with pride. They did a few more problems together, Clara solving them and Alex watching the process. There was something fascinating about the way she thought, the simple and direct logic she used to get to the answers. "Daddy, this one is hard," Clara said, pointing to 7 plus 6. Alex was about to explain that she could count on her fingers again when he remembered something Emma had said. Learn to listen without trying to control. Instead of giving the answer or showing the fastest method, Alex asked, "What do you think you can do to figure it out?" Clara thought for a moment. "I can count on my fingers, but I don't have enough fingers." "True. So now what?" Clara looked around and saw the building blocks scattered on the floor. "I can use the blocks." "Good idea." Clara gathered 7 blocks, then 6 more, and counted them one by one. 1, 2, 3, 13. She wrote a 13 in the notebook and looked at Alex. "So?" "Is it right?" Alex had seen that she miscounted. It was actually 12 blocks. His first instinct was to correct her immediately, but something made him pause. Instead, he asked, "How about we check it together?" They counted the blocks again, slowly, and Clara found the mistake herself. "Oops, it's 12, not 13. So I counted wrong." "That happens to everyone," Alex said. "The important thing is you figured it out yourself." Clara erased the 13 and carefully wrote 12 thou. "There, now it's right." Alex smiled. He was learning that being a father wasn't about giving all the answers, but about being there while Clara discovered the answers for herself. After homework, they ate dinner together. Alex had started staying for dinner a few times a week, and he was getting used to the simple, welcoming atmosphere of the small apartment table. It was very different from the solitary meals in his penthouse or the business dinners at expensive restaurants. "How was school today?" Alex asked while Clara played with the pasta on her plate. "It was cool. Miss Maria told a story about a turtle that could run." "A turtle that could run? That's interesting." "Yeah. She wanted to run like the rabbits, but she couldn't. Then she found out she could do other things that the rabbits couldn't." "What kind of things?" "Swim. And hide in her shell when there was danger." Alex nodded, genuinely interested. "And what did you think of the story?" Clara thought for a moment, chewing slowly. "I think everyone is good at different things. Like you're good at math and I'm good at drawing. You are very good at drawing. And Mommy is good at making food and giving hugs when I'm sad." Alex glanced at Emma, who was eating in silence, but he could see a small smile at the corner of her mouth. "You two are good at a lot of things," Alex said. After dinner, they sat on the living room floor to play. It was something Alex still found strange. A 30-year-old man, CEO of a billion-dollar company, sitting on the floor playing house with dolls. But every day, it felt more natural. "Daddy, do you want to be the dad in the doll family?" Clara asked. "Sure." "Then you have to make your voice different," Clara instructed, serious. "The doll daddy talks like this. Hi, family. How are you?" Alex laughed and tried to imitate the voice Clara had made. "Hi, family, how are you?" "No, deeper," Clara corrected. "Like this. Hi, family." Alex tried again, exaggerating the deep voice, and Clara burst out laughing. "Now that's good." They played for almost an hour, creating elaborate stories about the doll family. Alex discovered that Clara had an incredible imagination, and that he was starting to genuinely enjoy these games he once would have considered a waste of time. When Clara started to yawn, Emma appeared in the living room. "Bath time, Clara?" "Already?" Clara pouted. "It's time, honey. You have school tomorrow." Clara got up reluctantly and hugged Alex. "Bye, Daddy." "Are you coming tomorrow?" "I'll be here." "Promise?" "Promise." Clara ran to the bathroom, and Alex began to gather the toys scattered on the floor. It was another habit he had developed, helping to tidy up before he left. Emma returned from the kitchen with 2 cups of coffee. "Want some coffee before you go?" "Yes, thank you." They sat on the sofa, and for a few minutes they were quiet, listening to the sounds of Clara bathing and brushing her teeth. "How are you feeling about all this?" Emma asked. "Good. Tired sometimes, but good. It's very different from what I imagined." "Different how?" Alex thought for a moment. "Harder in some ways, easier in others. I thought it would be more about giving answers, solving problems, but it's more about just being present." "You're doing well." "You think so?" "I do. She's happy when you come. And it's not because you bring gifts or do special things. It's just because you're here." Alex took a sip of coffee, thinking about Emma's words. "I messed up badly yesterday," he admitted. "She was trying to tell me about a fight she had at school, and I immediately started giving advice on how to solve it. She just wanted me to listen. And what happened? She stopped talking and got kind of sad. Then I realized and apologized. I asked if she just wanted me to listen. She said yes. And then I listened, and that's what she needed. She didn't need me to solve anything. She just needed to vent." Emma smiled. "You're learning." "I'm still making a lot of mistakes." Every parent makes mistakes. The difference is that you're here to make them and to get them right. They heard Clara call out, "Good night, Daddy," from her room, and Alex called back, "Good night, sweetheart." "She never asks if you're coming the next day when I put her to bed," Emma said. "She just assumes you'll be here. Is that good or bad?" "It's good." "It means she trusts you." Alex felt a tightness in his chest. Clara's trust was something he was learning to value more than any multi-million-dollar contract. "Emma, can I ask you a question?" "Of course." "Why are you letting me be a part of her life? After everything that happened, you could have sent me away, just asked for child support." Emma was silent for a moment, staring into her coffee cup. "At first, I didn't want to. When Clara showed up here with you that first day, I was angry. I thought, now he wants to be a father. After 5 years. What changed? You changed. Or at least, you showed a part of yourself I didn't know." "How so?" Emma looked directly at Alex. "You didn't promise to be a perfect father. You didn't promise you'd make up for the lost years. You just showed up. And you kept showing up." Alex felt a lump in his throat. "I still don't know what I'm doing half the time." "Nobody does. But you're really trying." "And Clara feels that." They fell silent again, listening to the nightly sounds of the apartment. Clara had stopped moving in her room, likely already asleep. "Alex, can I tell you something?" "Of course." "She taught me how to trust you, without demanding anything, just with a look." Alex looked at Emma, confused. "What do you mean?" "The way she looks at you. How happy she is when you arrive. How she doesn't question if you're her real dad, if you're going to stay, if you're going to leave. To her, you're her dad, period. And seeing that, I started to believe it too." Alex felt his eyes well up. "She's taught me more about fatherhood in 3 weeks than I've learned about anything in my entire life." "How did she teach you?" "By being herself, without making demands, without requiring me to be perfect. When I mess up, she doesn't hold a grudge. When I get it right, she's genuinely happy. It's unconditional love, I guess." Emma nodded. "That's exactly it." Alex finished his coffee and looked at Emma. "And us, where do we stand in all this? We're learning too, to be partners, even if we're not a couple, to share the responsibility for her. Do you trust me now?" "I'm learning to trust, and that's already a lot." Alex stood up to leave. "Thank you, Emma." "For what?" "For letting me be a part of this, for giving me the chance to know her, for forgiving me, I guess." "You don't need my forgiveness, Alex. You just need to keep showing up." Alex nodded and headed for the door. "I'll come earlier tomorrow. I want to help her with her homework before dinner. She'll like that." Alex paused at the door and looked back at Emma. "Emma, yeah, thank you for being the amazing mother you are." "Clara is so lucky," Emma smiled. And for a moment Alex saw the girl he had known in college, not the hurt, suspicious Emma he had rediscovered, but the hopeful Emma who believed in better futures. "Good night, Alex." "Good night." Alex walked down the building stairs feeling different. It wasn't happiness exactly, but it was close. It was the feeling of being in the right place, doing the right thing even without knowing exactly how. It was the feeling of being present, and for now, that was enough. In the car, Alex looked back at the apartment's lit window. Inside were the 2 most important people in his life, one sleeping peacefully, knowing her father would be back tomorrow, and the other learning to trust again. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It wasn't a rekindled romance or a perfect family. It was something better. It was real. It was built day by day, mistake by correction, presence by presence. It was love being learned and taught at the same time, by a 5-year-old child who had appeared in his life with the greatest lesson he had ever received, that being a father didn't require a manual. It just required presence. The park was crowded that Sunday afternoon. Children ran between the playground equipment, parents pushed swings, and families spread out on the lawns for makeshift picnics. It was the kind of scene that, a few months ago, Alex would have observed with the distance of someone watching a movie. Interesting but unrelated to his life, now he was part of it. Clara was between Alex and Emma, holding both their hands as they walked through the park. She swung her arms enthusiastically, making Alex and Emma have to synchronize their steps to keep up with the girls' rhythm. "Can I go on the swings first?" Clara asked, pointing to the swings that were partially empty. "Of course," Emma said. "But you have to share with the other kids, okay?" "Okay." Clara stopped walking and looked up, staring first at Alex, then at Emma, then at both of them. There was something solemn in her expression, as if she were about to ask a very important question. "We're a family now, right?" The question hung in the air for a moment. Alex and Emma looked at each other over Clara's head, and in that gaze, there were years of history. The lost youth, the mistakes made, the time that couldn't be recovered, but also the possibility of something new, something real. Emma was the first to answer, her voice soft but firm. "Yes, my love. Our family." Clara smiled, satisfied with the answer, and ran off toward the swings. Alex and Emma followed more slowly, walking side by side in a comfortable silence. They found a bench with a view of the swings and sat down, watching Clara climb onto a blue swing and start pumping her legs, with the determination of a child who had learned she could count on herself, but who also knew she had people looking out for her. "Daddy, Mom, look how high I can go," Clara yelled, and both Alex and Emma waved back. Emma looked at Alex, studying his profile as he watched Clara play. There was a peace on his face that she had never seen before, a contentment that had nothing to do with professional achievements or financial success. "Alex," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. He turned to look at her. "I thought you would never change. That you'd always only care about yourself." Alex kept his eyes on Clara, who was now trying to teach another child how to swing higher. "I thought so too," he said, his voice low. "But I didn't know I needed to be a father to be happy." The words came out simply, without drama or grand declarations. It was just the truth, raw and honest. Emma felt something shift inside her chest. Without thinking too much, she reached out and gently took Alex's arm. It wasn't a romantic gesture, not a promise of reconciliation. It was acknowledgement. It was gratitude. It was confirmation that they had found something that worked, even if it was different from what either of them had imagined. Alex felt Emma's touch and didn't pull away. He didn't move closer either. He just accepted the moment for what it was. Two adults who had learned to share their love for a child, who had built mutual respect where once there was only hurt. The past wouldn't return. The 8 lost years would remain lost. The mistakes would remain made. The harsh words they said in their youth would remain said, but the present was real. The present was Clara laughing on the swing. It was Alex arriving every day at 5:30. It was Emma trusting again. It was a family built differently, but built with true love. "Look!" Clara yelled from afar. "I'm flying," and she was. At that moment, on the swing, with the wind in her hair and a smile on her face, Clara was flying, and Alex and Emma were there to see it, to applaud, to be present. They remained silent on the bench, watching their daughter play. Emma still held Alex's arm, and he still hadn't moved away. They didn't need to say anything else. They didn't need to define what they were to each other, or plan the future, or make promises they might not be able to keep.